What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, what's going on with the overall market as well, and how on earth we may see the market move going into tomorrow. I'm just going to talk about a couple of tickers, by the way, in this video and try to keep it a little bit short because there is still a lot going on, and I just want to make this as fast as possible. Now, before I break anything down about the market for tomorrow, before I talk about what just happened with Tesla's earnings, which is one of the biggest earnings for the entire week, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. The offer ends in just 5 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So anyways, Tesla's selling off pretty hard right now. It's down a total of over $10, down 6% for the day. At least, I'm sorry, in the after hours. And seeing Tesla sell off, it actually just hit 169. It's trying to hold that level so far, and it's just not looking too good. So the real question is, how is this going to affect the markets and why is Tesla selling off like this? Well, to start us off, it did start to sell off after the earnings report came out. They actually just barely met on EPS. They got 85 cents per share. That was the EPS. And then that's actually very close to the expectation of 85 or 86. Revenue was 23.33 billion, actually a little bit above expectations. That was one of the few segments that were actually quite good from the earnings, in addition to like energy storage increasing on revenue. But besides that, net income is down 24% from last year at $2.51 billion. On top of that, we're just not getting too much good news after that. Yes, Tesla Energy revenue once again is up 148%. But looking at specific details, given the current macroeconomic environment, uh, their margins are just continuing to get hit more and more. Tesla has cut prices for the sixth time of the year, and earnings was just not what many investors wanted. Now, was it a bad earnings? I wouldn't necessarily say it was bad because they did actually meet on EPS, or at least they came very close on EPS, and revenue was a beat. But margins are just not looking good. The net income is not too good either, and their margins are just from different sectors are just not doing as well. They did mention the fact that there could be more hardships coming. If you look at the overall data, some revenue sectors are up, but looking at their operating expenses, that's down. Income from operations is down. Their net income is down. Net cash provided by operation activities is also down. Free cash flow is down 80%. So they're burning cash. They're just not doing too well, unfortunately. Uh, this wasn't really horrible overall, since in some sectors they did beat, such as their total revenue being up 24%. But other things are not looking too good, and we're likely going to see a continuation of the sell off. Now, for tomorrow for the market, I also must note that we have other earnings from American Express, Rite Aid, AT&T, Nokia, and many other companies, not as significant as today as we had Tesla and IBM. IBM did relatively well for earnings. And then for Thursday, we also have initial jobless claims coming out. So that's going to affect how we open. We have more data from the Fed, and then we also have a lot of Fed speakers after about 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We have at least 2 or 3 of them, maybe even more. So a lot of Fed speakers are coming. We have initial jobless claims, more earnings, and also Tesla once again selling off after not the best of earnings. So then the real question was, okay, earnings were not that great, but what about the call? And during the call, Tesla didn't really report anything too great. They were just talking about many of the hardships that they've had, or some of the hardships that could come because of the Fed raising rates and the macroeconomic factors. But they also reassured us with some very bullish news about the longer term for the Cybertruck, for the fact that a lot of commodity prices will start to go down. So some things were good for the longer term. In fact, most of what they said that was good was for the long term. For the short term, there were some good pieces of data, but most were not too great. And there was just nothing that significant that came out to help save the share price, unfortunately, and it's likely going to continue to sell off and respect the downtrend going forward. So now let's break down the charts. Tesla's once again in the after hours, it's down over 6%. What do I see going forward? Tesla's currently below the 176 support. I don't know where it's going to open tomorrow though, because that could actually change. But what's important to note is, where does Tesla actually end up tomorrow morning? If we're in the lower 170s or like around 169, we have to watch support at 168 to 172.5. If that fails, the next support is going to be around 165. If it fails below 170, there is 168, but if that doesn't hold, then there's 165. Support's not as strong there as 163. So this 163 to 165 area is going to be very key for Tesla, specifically 163. If it does break that low, which it probably will very soon, we could see Tesla try to either bounce here or somewhat of a reaction. But until then, we do have some more downside to likely come. It also depends on where we open tomorrow, but I just want to note that will affect the markets. SPY, how we open is going to depend on initial jobless claims. If jobless claims are higher than expected at over 240,000, this could actually help us open a lot better. If not, this thing could actually sell off. We are a little bit down. I guess it's because Tesla's selling off that is playing a big role. Uh, because of Tesla selling off, even if we do open to the upside, we might see lots of sideways action tomorrow, maybe even some downside. It's a real possibility we could see a pullback because of Tesla. The odds do favor that, but I'm always open to anything just in case. Now, Tesla is dragging the market down to some degree, but always be prepared for anything. We did actually break below this channel we have on SPY temporarily today before bouncing back above it. However, it is showing some signs of weakness, so we could get a temporary pullback to retest the 50 EMA on the 412 area. We have to see if that holds, because if that fails, the next important support is going to be all the way down to like 409. And if that fails, there's a gap fill all the way down around the 408 to 407.5 area. And there could be more downside coming, right? So my best prediction would be a bit of a drop in the market because of Tesla. It is a giant technically, and it could actually affect the market heavily. We're likely going to see SPY pull back because of it. Once again, watch the support. The dollar is holding up, is trading sideways for now. If the dollar breaks out, that's going to become bearish. For now, the dollar is not showing confirmation of it, but it is trying to base for now. We just have to wait and see what the dollar does going forward. HYG is also selling off a bit, which tends to actually mark some more downside to come for the markets. It's actually looking a lot weaker than SPY, which shows what bigger institutions are doing. The VIX is very undervalued. We have a bullish divergence, but it's still developing, so there's no guarantee it's actually finished developing. And that tells me that there are two possibilities because of the VIX. The VIX is either so undervalued that it's about to get this bounce, and the market's going to pull back a bit. And I don't know if it's going to just be like the big bounce or just a small bounce before it does come down lower. But here's what I'm seeing. Yes, the market could pull back, but then later on the market could still get another push up. But ultimately, right? Ultimately, as we get to May, I am expecting a big drop in the stock market. The market to tank, right? I'm expecting SPY to come all the way down to the low 400s, if not the higher 300s, 390s should come by the time we get to May. And I think the VIX is going to explode by then, back above 20 plus, maybe even like 25 to 30, right? But for now, I'm seeing two possibilities. The first possibility is the VIX might just continue to sell off before the big bounce comes later, or we could just get a small bounce now and maybe start to trade sideways as it tries to base around here. Then eventually it breaks up and we see the market sell off, right? What does that mean for the markets? Markets are either about to start tanking, or we could just try to hold up and trade sideways for the time being, try to push up a little bit more one last time before the big drop comes by the time we get to May or closer to May. Then the big drop could come later. But either way, if there's a little more upside, I'm not really counting on it being too strong. I am seeing downside coming. If it doesn't even come, if we don't get the upside, we're likely just going to see the market tank. So most likely there's a drop coming in the future. It's going to most likely come in the future. We could push up a little more depending on how things go for the next like week or so. But either way, I am seeing a topping process in the markets, and I do believe this bearish divergence will play out for SPY. The bearish divergence developing on the hourly time frame. It's developing, it has not fully developed, but once we get the confirmation, we will know when the market starts tanking. All right. That's just my opinion. I am seeing a sell-off for May. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. QQ is likely going to see more downside than SPY tomorrow because of Tesla selling off. It's going to likely try to test this 50 EMA around 317. If that fails, 316 is going to be key, followed by this 314 area, the very high 314s, then this gap down to about the 313 to 312.5. So it's likely going to come down to at least 316 to 314. If it fails, then it could fill this gap. If it doesn't fail, it could try to hold up temporarily. But that's what I'm most likely seeing on the QQQ. I already talked about the VIX, very important. We'll see if this thing does get the break to the upside. It is trying to base around 16, but we need more confirmation before anything. The VIX is telling me that the market's either about to sell off, excuse me, sorry guys, sell off significantly, or the VIX could drop more as the market continues to just hold up or even pump a bit before the bigger sell-off comes later, closer to May or even during May. But a sell-off is most likely coming in the near-term future. For Aapl, it's still pretty strong at 0.7%. See, it actually got stopped at my prediction around this 168 area. It stopped at 168.16, very close to what my prediction was, 168 flat. If it keeps going, it could get closer to 170, but I don't really see too much upside left. It's likely going to start cooling off a bit to start filling some of these gaps going forward. Finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the 10-year Treasury yield. I'm sorry if I'm not talking about too many tickers. Let me just talk about Nvda and then that, actually. Two more, and then I'm going to end the video. Looking at Nvda, this thing once again tried to trick lots of investors, holding up quite nicely. It came close to filling this gap, it just bounced, and so far it's holding up. But if tech does start to slow down, we could see this thing come right back down, and it might just hold up and trade sideways for a while before it does start to sell off more. But I am anticipating this will sell off a bit, close this gap, maybe come back down to the very high 268 to 270 area. I think that could still happen as this thing is losing some momentum. And overall, I do believe it is due for a bit of a pullback in general, and also because of the fact that Tesla is selling off. Finally, 10-year Treasury yield is breaking to the upside. It does have a bearish divergence, so it might cool off in the future. Maybe it holds up tomorrow, and we do see this come down later. If this does come down, this could actually help the market hold up. But overall, even if we do get a small pullback because of this bearish divergence that formed, I want to note that the bigger trend is still more bullish. So even if it does cool off a little bit, it could just keep going. If it keeps going, right, if this trend keeps remaining bullish like this, the stock market is going to start to downtrend. Once this thing finds its bottom and it just keeps going, once it gets closer to 40, the market's going to be topping, and this is very, very important. So what does this mean for the stock market? I'm not seeing too much upside left. I mean, my absolute max is if we do start to pump over by next week, because I did mention to you guys there could be a little bit more upside left before the big tank comes. Uh, the absolute max is probably like 418 to 420, the absolute max. And then after that, we're going to likely just come crashing down. But I don't know if the market's about to crash now, if the bearish divergence is ready because of Tesla, or if we're just going to get a small pullback and then try to bounce, get one more push later on, and then we tank, right? It's got to be one of those two most likely. Anyways, guys, that's what I have for this video. I thank you all so much for listening, trying to keep this one short, sweet, and simple. And I'll see you guys in the next one for a more meticulous update. Thank you. The market to the moon as the long term is very bright, and be very careful with stocks like Tesla. All right. Thank you, and peace out.